Volume is not only on the rise in Charleston's ports, but March was the strongest month in the port's history. Let's get right down to it and welcome Jim Newsome. He's the president and CEO of the South Carolina Ports Authority. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Layla.
So really good news coming out of March's numbers.
Right. I mean, we had a record month, and the port is about growth and handling volumes efficiently, and we anticipate that we will have our biggest container ship ever in May. So it's an exciting time in the port.
Very much so. Let's talk about how things have been thus far. So taking March, for instance, what did you see coming in and going out that has a big impact on us?
So we're slightly import dominant, but we see exports as a growth area, and we handled almost 200,000 TU, which is a record for us, and it's pretty broad-based, pretty diverse. And I think April will be a stronger month, and then I think it'll moderate a little bit, which is seasonal. But we should, for the fiscal year, be up 8 or 9% over the last fiscal year, which ends in June.
Okay, and you mentioned an acronym there, TEU. What does that stand for?
It's a goofy term. It's a 20-foot equivalent unit. So most containers you see on the road are 40-foot containers. So that would be 2 TEU.
Big ones that you see on the backs of trucks.
Most are 40-foot containers, right.
I see. And how much goods are usually contained within those?
So a container holds about 50 cubic meters of cargo, or about 20 tons of weight. And some cargo is more cubic, some cargo is more weight sensitive. Exports tend to be heavier, imports tend to be lighter.
I see. Now, are these imports just coming straight in to the Charleston area, or do they then get dispersed to across the country?
No, I mean, we're a regional port, so we're a statewide port. They go throughout the state and the southeast. 60% of our cargo goes to and from the upstate, so it's broad-based.
Okay. And what are you seeing most coming in, or what has the most impact on our economy?
We're very auto-centric. We're a manufacturing port, so obviously BMW and Mercedes-Benz and soon-to-be Volvo cars, also tires, Michelin, and manufacturing in that way, and increasingly retail, such as Dollar Tree up in Greer.
And that's what's going out?
It's coming in.
Oh, that's what's coming in.
And then going out would also be auto parts and forest products and chemicals and ag products and plastics in the future, because we will actually handle some plastics from the U.S. Gulf over here.
I see. Well, anytime you drive over the Ravenel or you're driving alongside the coast there along the harbor, you tend to see a lot of cars parked there. So those are all cars that are going out or coming in?
So we have about 260,000 export cars a year from BMW today. And then when Volvo starts manufacturing, that number will increase. So they're going out mainly. Okay. They're from Greer. They come on a 10,000-foot-long train every day, and we unload them and then put them on ships.
That's great. I also have to ask, because sometimes the risk of importing goods means that you're going to be importing possibly counterfeit goods and things of that nature. So just a quick little glimpse as to what sort of a day-to-day happens.
Well, I think there's a very sound system in place. The Customs and Border Protection monitors that. We have radiation portal monitors on our terminal, which really screen containers, and then they have a good way of pre-checking manifests to make sure the right type of cargo is coming in, and that they would stop things that are the wrong type of cargo, such as counterfeit goods or something even worse potentially.
I see, I see. And as far as jobs go, I want to talk about that in our next block, but what is the projection that you see for the ports maybe in the next year?
Well, so there are two types of jobs that are port-related. One is direct employment. You don't see those all under one name. The port employs 500 people. I would say the maritime community here is 5,000 to 10,000 people. So that's as big as Boeing. And then the indirect impact of jobs, we say 1 out of every 11 jobs in the state is indirectly created by the port, directly or incorrect, so indirect. So it's a big impact.
It certainly is. All right, well, we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back. But welcome back. We've been talking about Charleston's robust port activity. Jim Newsome is the president and CEO of South Carolina's Ports Authority, and we were just talking about the 13,000 TEU ship. So tell me a little bit about that.
So to put it in perspective, the biggest ship we've handled today is 11,000 TEU ship, so this is significantly bigger. That ship comes in the middle of May. We'll have about 3,000 container moves on it. So we're seeing the growth in cargo on the same number of larger ships due to the expansion of the Panama Canal.
That's huge. And that's an Asian ship you were mentioning?
It is owned by China Ocean Shipping Company, and it is on the Asia-U.S. East Coast trade, which is a fast-growing trade. It'll have a good mix of imports and exports.
That's great. And also, let's talk about dredging. So the dredging project is going to begin in the fall.
So the dredges you see today are maintenance dredges. They maintain the harbor to its authorized depth. We're going to start our deepening this fall, which will take the harbor from 45 feet to 52 feet. And that'll be about a 3-year project. And then we'll have the deepest harbor on the East Coast, which enables us to handle bigger ships, mainly with export cargo.
That's pretty incredible. And so what does that mean as far as the TEU ships that come in? So 13,000 is the biggest yet?
So
how much bigger do they get?
The 13 to 14,000 is the size that we have originally intended to handle, but we are pretty sure that in the future we could handle an 18,000 TEU ship.
Wow.
We're trying to run that down right now and see if that's possible. So it's the biggest trend in the shipping industry is bigger ships because that's cheaper cost per unit for the shipping lines.
So less trips, just pile more
Yeah,
stuff
I mean,
on the
again,
ship.
same instead of more ships, same number of ships but larger ships. It makes everything more efficient, really.
Does that have a trickle-down effect to the economy itself?
I think anything that lowers supply chain costs encourages people to participate in the global supply chain. So I'd say yes.
So for consumers, it could be potentially beneficial.
Right. I think you see the trend in ocean rates is that the ocean shipping rates are very cost-effective, and that has enabled the global supply chain to grow.
Now, either way, you're going to still have a lot of containers coming into the ports and containers going out, which means you need to have people to handle them. So if anyone is interested in having a job at the ports, so what do they do?
Well, so there are multiple ways to do it. We employ about 500 people. We have a workforce that's getting older and is retiring, so we post our jobs online. They're good-paying jobs. There's also the International Longshoremen's Association. There are various trucking companies, harbor pilots, things of that nature. The good news is that port jobs pay, on average, about 40% more than the average per capita income in South Carolina, so they're good jobs.
Absolutely. What's the training that you need behind it?
So it's if you run a lift machine on our port, it's about 6 years of training to get up to the maximum level of competence, and then from there you could become a crane operator. And not everybody wants to do that. They're very skilled jobs, they're high-stress jobs, and the good news is we've got a great workforce on our waterfront. People that have been multiple generations on the waterfront, and they want to be in this industry, so it's something we're very, very proud of.
It is a generational thing, isn't it?
It is.
So oftentimes it is passed down through...
It is. I'm second generation.
Are you now?
I'm actually last generation. Neither of my kids wants to do it, and that's fine as well.
Was it your father who...
My father was with the Port of Savannah. I'm from Savannah originally, and I grew up on the port, so that's how I got in this business.
Yeah, and it's kind of in your blood, so being on the water...
It gets in your blood, and it never gets out, so,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing, I think.
Well, speaking of Georgia, so the Jasper port, that's also going to be happening fairly soon.
So the next increment of terminal capacity in the south is Savannah and Charleston are the two of the fastest growing ports in the U.S. We're going to need more capacity one day, and the next increment of that capacity, once we build the Leatherman terminal here, is at the foot of the Savannah River, and that is the Jasper Ocean Terminal. It'll be a joint project with Georgia, and should be an exciting development. Will be one day the biggest container terminal in the U.S. when built out in 4 phases.
That's impressive. And just curious, how important is it to have the Jasper terminal, though, considering that Charleston isn't that far from Savannah, and Savannah wouldn't be that
well,
far from Jasper?
Well, I think what's more important is that we have planned capacity to facilitate the growth of this region. We think the Southeast is going to grow faster than the U.S. economy, both import growth related to population and export growth from manufacturing. So if we don't have port capacity, the region can't grow.
All right. Well, Jim, I could talk about this all day long, but
Me
I
too.
really want to appreciate you coming in, and you're always welcome back.